In Term 2 for Geography, we are going to be studying the concept of trade. If you look at page 1 of your notes, it's important that before we continue, you first understand the meanings of certain terminologies. So trade is the exchange of goods and services. Now, goods are things that are grown or made. For example, food items, furniture, cars, etc. Then services are work that people do for other people. So goods, for example, are things that we buy in the supermarkets, at retail stores, etc. Services are provided by people to other people. So doctors, teachers, plumbers, electricians, etc. are all services where people provide their skills that they have learnt to help other people. So for example, a doctor studies medicine, and once he's qualified, he can use his expertise to understand what is wrong with and diagnose a patient's illness, and he will be able to suggest ways in which they can be treated. Now, if we look on my cyber wall, they answer the question, what is trade? So basically, trade is the process of buying and selling goods and services. A producer sells items or products, or they provide a service. And a consumer or customer pays for them. The exchange between a producer and a consumer is known as a transaction. So if you have a look at the picture on the right-hand side, there is a florist. He has grown flowers, and now a consumer is coming to purchase the flowers that he has grown from him. In this picture, you can see a customer paying for her goods at the till in a supermarket. So the customer or the consumer goes to the supermarket. She walks around and chooses what items she'd like to buy. She then goes to the teller and she pays for those items. In today's world, we use money, so either paper money or debit or credit cards to buy goods and services. But in the past, people used to exchange goods or their labor for other goods or services. This system was called bartering. In the bartering system, money was not used because one product was exchanged for another. So if we have a look at this example here, 1 bag of wheat was exchanged for 2 chickens. So in other words, if I have 2 chickens and you have 1 bag of wheat, we could do an exchange or barter with each other. So instead of paying money for the chickens or for the bag of wheat, the exchange would take place between me and you, and I would walk away with 1 bag of wheat, and in exchange for that, you would walk away with my 2 chickens. Bartering then expanded to include many different products. So for example, if a sheep was bartered, the bartering then took place in relation to the price of 1 or more sheep. So if I had a sheep, you had chickens, and somebody else had a bag of wheat, for example, we would know, and there would be an agreement that would have taken place, that 1 sheep would be equal to swapping with somebody else 4 chickens, or it could be swapped for 2 bags of wheat. Because remember, just now, 2 chickens was equals to 1 bag of wheat. So 4 chickens now becomes equal to 2 bags of wheat. So now you can have a variety of different things that are able to be bartered amongst people. Now, the bartering system, however, was problematic because there had to be a standard unit of value. There had to be a need for the product that was being bartered, and it had to be easily transportable. A new type of exchange was used now, and they decided to use metals such as gold, silver, and copper. Metal like copper, silver, and gold, which were regarded as precious metals, proved to be particularly suitable and acceptable as a medium of exchange. So if we think back to our example earlier on, we could show the exchange of metals in comparison to the other products, and in this case, the example is the 2 chickens. So we can say that 2 chickens would be equal to 1 ounce of silver, which is equal to 1 bag of wheat. So once people started using metal to trade, coins then were made out of the metals such as silver, copper, and gold, and these coins were easy to carry around and instantly recognizable. It was, however, dangerous to carry around large sums of coins, just like it is dangerous to carry around large amounts of money nowadays. As metals became more expensive, traders then deposited the coins with goldsmiths and obtained a receipt for their deposit. So this is how it was done in the old days before we had things such as banks. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our notes where you are going to be able to fill in the answers. I will also upload this memo for you to check through so that you can copy it down correctly into your books. So to recap, trade is the exchange of goods and services. Goods are things that are grown or made. Services are work that people do for other people. Then we learnt about the fact that people have been trading with each other since the earliest of times. People trade for many reasons. The simplest reason is to get things they don't have by trading what they have. A long time ago, there was no such thing as money. People swapped goods with each other so they could get what they needed. This type of trade was called bartering. So the definition of bartering is that it is to exchange goods without using money. And we saw this as an example on the video clip just now that I spoke about with the chickens and the bags of wheat and the sheep. Bartering is not always a good way of getting things because people may have something to trade that nobody wants. And traders could sometimes not agree on what would be a fair swap. People therefore came up with a better way to trade. Instead of swapping one item for another, they had to come up with the idea of using one thing to swap for everything else. This is how money came about. People first used different types of objects, such as beads or shells, as money. Eventually, metal coins were used to trade. The coins were made into flat, round pieces. Different sized coins had different trading values. These coins were then used to buy goods people needed. Many years later, paper money was invented. Exports and imports between South Africa and the world. Trade between different countries is called international trade. Countries that trade together are called trading partners. Now, if you have a look at this little map of South Africa here, it clearly shows you anything going out of a country is called exports. So you will export items or goods or services to a country to sell to the people living in those countries. Imports are when products are brought into South Africa, and these are goods or services that South Africa, for example, buys from other countries. South Africa has the biggest economy in Africa. This means that it has the most trade and business. It is followed by Egypt in second place and Nigeria in third place. And on this map, you can see South Africa is situated here. So we are the biggest economy, followed by Egypt right up in the northern regions of Africa, and there is Nigeria. That is where it's situated. South Africa has many useful resources, natural resources, like minerals contained in rocks such as gold, diamonds, and iron. The climate in South Africa makes it possible for farmers to grow many different kinds of fruits, which are exported to colder countries in the Northern Hemisphere. And if we look at the last page for this week, there you can see once again the map of South Africa, and this time it is looking at the different types of items that are imported and exported from South Africa. So things that we export from our country to other countries are items such as iron, gold, tourism, fruit, car parts, and diamonds. Examples of items that we import from other countries are electrical goods, factory machines, medicines, chemicals, and transport equipment. And then lastly, on the map of the world, it shows our main trading partners that we trade with: USA, Germany, China, and Japan. And what you are going to do now is you are going to Google the colors of each of those countries' flags that are on this page, and you are going to color them in correctly. To add to the lesson, you can go onto YouTube and Google different video clips to do with trade, international trade, and the bartering system and how it evolved over the years into trading with money. I hope after this lesson you have a better understanding of the concept of trade. Next week we are going to take a more in-depth look at what people trade amongst themselves. I hope you have a lovely week ahead and watch this space. I'll be back next week for the next installment of our geography.